She didn't ask Santa for money. She didn't ask for fame. She didn't even ask for food. On Christmas Eve, a 19-year-old homeless girl sleeping under a bridge made just one simple wish: a place to sleep. What she didn't know was that the man dressed as Santa was not ordinary. And when Christmas morning came, the gift he placed in her hands would change her life forever, turning a girl the world ignored into someone no one could ever overlook again. Stay with us till the end, because how this Christmas wish was answered will leave you in tears. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's begin. Sophia learned the meaning of hunger before she learned how to smile. At just 19, she had no mother to call her name in the morning, no father to shield her from the cruelty of the world. Life had introduced itself to her with clenched fists, and it never loosened its grip. While other children learned how to laugh, Sophia learned how to endure. While others were taught bedtime prayers by loving voices, she learned how to stay awake through the night, listening for danger. Her parents had died when she was still too young to understand death. First her mother, weak, coughing endlessly, eyes always apologetic as if she was sorry for leaving too soon. Then her father, whose body simply gave up after trying too hard for too long. After the burials, people came around for a few weeks. They brought sympathy, empty promises, and leftover food. Then slowly, one by one, they disappeared. Sophia disappeared with them into the cracks of society. By the time she turned 19, the world had already decided she was invisible. Every morning before the sun fully rose, Sophia woke under the bridge. The concrete above her head was stained with years of neglect, scribbled with graffiti and darkened by smoke. The air smelled of dust, urine, and old rainwater. She slept on flattened cartons, using her torn wrapper as a blanket. When the night was cold, she curled into herself like a child trying to return to the womb. She washed her face at roadside taps when she was lucky, or with sachet water when she could afford it. Then she arranged her bananas neatly on a small tray, yellow, sometimes bruised, sometimes overripe, and walked to the roadside. "Hog banana, sweet banana." Her voice was soft, too soft for a noisy world. Cars sped past her, splashing muddy water on her legs during rainy season, blowing hot dust into her face during Harmattan. Some people wound up their windows when they saw her coming. Others stared through her like she wasn't human. Once in a while, a kind woman would buy bananas and press extra money into her palm. "God bless you, my daughter," they would say. Sophia always whispered back, "Amen." She didn't argue with fate. She accepted whatever the day gave her, 500 naira, sometimes less, sometimes nothing at all. By evening, when her tray was empty or her feet could no longer move, she returned to the bridge or searched for an empty shop that hadn't been locked yet. Those empty shops were her temporary miracles. She slept there quietly, afraid of security men, afraid of owners, afraid of being chased away at any moment. Many nights she was. Harsh voices, shoves, insults. "Get out! Is this your father's shop?" And she would gather her few belongings and walk back into the darkness, swallowing her tears because crying never stopped hunger. Sophia had learned something early in life. Tears didn't pay rent. Under the bridge, she met others like her, some older, some younger. Some had stories too painful to tell. Others had stopped telling stories altogether. But Sophia was different. She still hoped, quietly, carefully, like someone protecting a fragile flame from strong wind. Every night before sleeping, she counted her money. She tied it inside a nylon bag and hid it carefully beneath her wrapper. That money was her dream. Every naira had a name. One was room rent, another was lock, another was bed. She imagined a small room with peeling paint and a door she could close. A place where rain wouldn't wake her, where footsteps wouldn't scare her. She didn't want luxury. She didn't want attention. She just wanted rest. Sometimes, as she lay under the bridge listening to cars pass overhead, Sophia wondered what it felt like to wake up without fear, to stretch without looking over your shoulder, to sleep knowing you would wake up in the same place you slept. She had never known that feeling on nights when hunger became unbearable. Sophia pressed her hand against her stomach and whispered to herself, "Just endure till morning." She had mastered endurance. It was her strongest skill. But even endurance has limits. On one particularly cold night, Sophia watched families pass by, carrying food packs, laughing, talking about Christmas plans. Lights were already appearing in homes. Decorations hung loosely from poles. The city was preparing to celebrate. Sophia looked at her thin hands and wondered if Christmas even knew she existed. She didn't hate people. She didn't envy them. She simply felt forgotten. Under the bridge, she closed her eyes and prayed, not out loud, but in her heart. God, please don't let me die here. It wasn't a dramatic prayer. It wasn't a greedy one. It was the prayer of someone who had nothing left to bargain with. Sophia didn't know it yet, but that prayer, spoken from the depths of quiet suffering, had already begun to move things she could not see. The bridge she slept under was not the end of her story. It was only the beginning. Morning always came too fast for Sophia. Before the sun rose fully, the sound of engines roaring above the bridge jolted her awake. Her body ached from the hard ground, her bones stiff from the cold night air. She sat up slowly, rubbing her arms, listening to the city wake up. Horns blaring, traders shouting, footsteps rushing past. Another day had arrived, whether she was ready or not. Sophia gathered her things quickly. Life on the street taught her speed. If you stayed too long in one place, trouble would find you. She folded her wrapper, checked the nylon bag tied around her waist, and exhaled in relief when she felt the familiar shape of her savings still there. That money was the only thing keeping her sane. She walked to the roadside tap behind a closed building. Sometimes the tap worked, sometimes it didn't. On days it did, she washed her face and hands carefully, splashing water on her neck as if it could wash away the shame of sleeping outside. On days it didn't, she bought sachet water with her last coins and used it sparingly. One for her face, one for her hands. Sophia didn't waste anything. Not water, not food, not hope. By mid-morning, she was already on the roadside with her tray of bananas balanced on her head. She walked slowly through traffic, calling out in a low, tired voice, "Sweet banana, fresh banana." The sun climbed higher, pressing down on her like a heavy hand. Sweat soaked her clothes. Dust clung to her skin. Her slippers, worn thin from months of walking, slapped weakly against the tarred road. Some people were kind. A woman once stopped her and asked, "Where is your mother?" Sophia smiled politely and said nothing. She had learned that explanations made people uncomfortable. Silence was easier. Other people were cruel. "Small girl like you should be in school, not here," a man barked once, throwing her bananas back at her. She bent down quietly and picked them up. Hunger did not allow pride. When traffic slowed, Sophia moved closer to car windows. When it sped up, she stepped back quickly, her heart pounding every time a car passed too close. More than once, drivers shouted insults at her. Once, a man tried to grab her hand. She ran until her lungs burned. Still, she returned every day. Because if she didn't hawk, she didn't eat. By evening, Sophia counted her earnings carefully. Sometimes it was enough for a small plate of rice. Other times, it was only enough for bread and sachet water. On very bad days, she went to bed hungry, pretending sleep was food. But every night, no matter how tired she was, she saved something. 10 naira, 20, 50. She folded the notes neatly and hid them in her nylon bag, tying it tightly around her waist before sleeping. That bag was her shield against despair. It reminded her that she wasn't completely stuck. She was working towards something. Nights were the hardest. When she slept under the bridge, fear slept beside her. She listened to footsteps, coughs, whispers, sudden laughter. She slept lightly, waking at every sound. Sometimes drunk men passed by. Sometimes fights broke out. Sometimes police sirens wailed nearby, making her heart jump. On better nights, she found an empty shop. Those nights felt like heaven. She would sit quietly in the corner, hugging her knees, afraid to make noise. She didn't light a torch. She didn't lie down fully. She slept like someone borrowing sleep, ready to return it at any moment. But even those small mercies never lasted. One night, the shop owner burst in with a torch and a loud voice. "Who is there?" Sophia jumped to her feet, shaking. "Please, sir. I'll go. I'm sorry." The man cursed and chased her out. She didn't argue. She didn't cry until she reached the bridge. Sophia often wondered what she had done wrong in life to deserve such endless running. She didn't drink. She didn't steal. She didn't fight. Yet survival itself felt like punishment. Sometimes as she lay awake staring at the dark concrete above her, she imagined another life. One where she woke up in a room, swept her floor, cooked simple food, and slept without fear. Not wealth, not comfort, just peace. But peace seemed like a luxury she could not afford. Christmas was drawing closer now. Streets began to sparkle with decorations. Music played from shops. Children laughed louder. Sophia noticed everything. She watched families carry bags of food, smiling, arguing playfully. She watched couples hold hands. She watched joy pass her by like a bus she could never board. Yet still she saved. Each night she whispered to herself, just a little more. Don't give up now. Sophia did not know that life was quietly counting too. Not her failures, but her endurance. And while her body was tired, her spirit refused to lie down. For now, she kept walking, kept hawking, kept surviving, because that was all she knew how to do. That day began like every other day, without promise. Sophia woke up under the bridge with a dull ache in her stomach and a stiffness in her back that made her wince as she stood. She brushed the dust from her wrapper, retied the nylon bag firmly around her waist, and whispered a short prayer before stepping into the morning. It was a habit she never skipped. God, please help me sell today. She didn't know why, but something about the air felt different, heavier. The sky was gray, hanging low, as though it too was tired. Still, Sophia pushed the feeling aside. Fear had no place in survival. She hawked harder that day. She walked farther than usual, her feet burning as she crossed roads and dodged speeding cars. She smiled when she had to, bowed her head when insulted, and thanked everyone who bought even a single banana. By late afternoon, her tray was empty. Empty tray, full heart. Sophia sat on the roadside and counted her money slowly, her hands trembling with excitement. For the first time in months, her savings were complete. It wasn't much to anyone else. But to Sophia, it was everything. Enough to pay for a small room, enough to buy a padlock, enough to sleep indoors. That evening, she walked back to the bridge with lighter steps. Her mind raced with thoughts of tomorrow. She imagined waking up in a room, sweeping the floor, cooking curry without rushing, sleeping without fear. She hugged herself and smiled, really smiled, for the first time in a long while. She slept early that night. Under the bridge, the city hummed above her, cars passed, voices echoed. Somewhere nearby, people laughed. Sophia curled tightly, her hand resting protectively over her waist, where the nylon bag lay hidden. She slept deeply. Too deeply. A faint rustle woke her suddenly. Sophia's eyes flew open. Before she could sit up, a shadow loomed over her. Then another, and another. 3 boys. Their eyes were sharp, their movements quick. One held a small blade glinting faintly under the dim light. Another grabbed her arm. Sophia froze, not because she was weak, but because she had learned that fear could keep you alive. Quiet, one of them whispered harshly. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure they could hear it. Hands searched her body roughly. Fingers tore at her wrapper. Sophia struggled instinctively. Please, please, I don't have anything, she cried. They laughed, then one of them found it. The nylon bag, Sophia screamed, No, please, that's all I have. They ripped it open. The money spilled into their hands. Her future vanished in seconds. Leave her, one said impatiently, stuffing the notes into his pocket. They ran. Sophia chased them barefoot, screaming their shadows into the darkness. Thief, please help me. No one came. She stumbled. She fell. She scraped her knees, but she didn't feel the pain. She collapsed on the cold ground and screamed until her voice broke. Her tears soaked the dust. Her body shook violently as the truth sank in. It was gone. Everything she had endured. Every night she stayed awake. Every insult she swallowed. Every hunger she survived. Gone. Sophia cried until she had no strength left. She cried until her chest hurt. She cried until her tears dried up and left only emptiness behind. People passed by. Some stared. Some ignored her. No one stopped. That night, Sophia didn't sleep. She sat under the bridge with her knees pulled to her chest, staring into nothing. The bridge that had once felt like shelter now felt like a grave. For the first time since she became homeless, Sophia whispered words she had never allowed herself to say. I'm tired. She didn't know how she would continue. She didn't know how to start again. The strength she had relied on felt stolen, just like her savings. As the night grew colder and the sounds of the city faded, Sophia hugged herself tightly, shaking. Christmas was only days away, but inside her heart, hope had just been buried. Sophia did not know how she survived the days that followed the robbery. She moved like a shadow, waking and sleeping without purpose, hawking bananas without counting the money, walking the roads as though her feet belonged to someone else. The strength that once carried her through hunger and humiliation felt drained, as if someone had reached inside her chest and pulled out the last thread holding her together. For the first time since becoming homeless, Sophia stopped planning. There was no more tomorrow, no more just a little longer. Each night under the bridge felt heavier than the last. The concrete pressed against her body, and the noise above seemed louder, crueler. She slept in short, broken pieces, waking often from dreams where her money was still tied around her waist, only to wake and remember the truth. She had lost everything. As Christmas Eve approached, the city transformed around her. Strings of lights appeared on poles. Shops played loud carols. People laughed more freely. Even the air felt different, charged with expectation and joy. But Sophia felt none of it. That evening, she stood across the road from a church she had never entered before. Bright lights glowed from inside. The sound of singing drifted into the street, warm and inviting. People walked in, wearing clean clothes, carrying smiles and Bibles. Sophia hesitated. Her clothes were torn. Her hair was uncombed. Her slippers barely held together. She almost turned away, but something inside her, something deeper than pride, pushed her forward. Sophia stepped into the church quietly and sat on the very last bench, close to the door, ready to leave if anyone looked at her too long. She folded her hands tightly in her lap, her head bowed, her heart pounding. As the service went on, words about hope, miracles, and birth of a savior filled the air. The choir sang about light breaking into darkness, about deity coming in the morning. Sophia listened, her throat tightened. When it was time to pray, the pastor asked everyone to kneel. Sophia slid off the bench and knelt on the cold-tiled floor. Around her, people prayed aloud, asking for success, for travel mercies, for financial breakthroughs. Sophia said nothing at first. Then the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet drops falling onto the floor. She whispered, barely louder than a breath, "God, I don't know how to continue." Her shoulders shook. "I didn't ask for much. I only wanted a room, a small place to sleep." She paused, swallowing hard. "I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being chased. I'm tired of sleeping where I'm not wanted." Sophia pressed her forehead to the floor. "Please, even if it's not now, don't let me die on the street." She stayed there long after the prayer ended. No thunder struck. No voice spoke from the ceiling. But something shifted inside her. For the first time since the robbery, Sophia felt seen. After the service, people shared food and gifts outside the church. Children laughed. Volunteers handed out clothes. Sophia stood at the edge, unsure if she belonged there. Then an elderly woman walked up to her and placed a small food pack in her hands. "Merry Christmas, my dear." Sophia smiled weakly and whispered, "Thank you." She ate slowly that night, sitting by the church gate, staring at the cross above the building. The lights glowed softly, casting long shadows on the ground. She didn't know where she would sleep. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in days, she prayed again, not from desperation, but from surrender. "God, I've done all I can. The rest is in your hands." As the church lights dimmed and the night deepened, Sophia curled up near the gate, holding her wrapper tightly around her body. She didn't know that heaven had already taken note of her prayer. Christmas was only hours away, and so was a miracle she never dared to imagine. Christmas morning arrived quietly, like a whisper Sophia almost missed. She woke up at the church gate, her body stiff from sleeping on the cold pavement. The sky was still pale, washed in soft gray and gold. Church bells rang gently, announcing Christmas Day. Around her, the city was waking up, vendors arranging goods, children laughing, families stepping out in clean clothes. Sophia sat up slowly and hugged her knees to her chest. Christmas. For others, it meant celebration. For her, it meant survival. She watched families walk past the church gate carrying coolers of food and bags of gifts. Children ran ahead, shouting with excitement, their clothes bright, their faces glowing. Sophia looked down at her own torn dress and dusty slippers. She felt invisible again, but she did not feel angry. She felt empty. Later that morning, the church compound became lively. Volunteers decorated the open space with balloons and ribbons. Music played from loudspeakers. A banner read, "Christmas Outreach. All are are welcome. Sophia stood at a distance, unsure whether that message included someone like her. Then she saw him. Santa Claus. He was tall and broad, dressed in a bright red suit, white beard flowing over his chest. Children surrounded him, laughing, pulling at his sleeves, shouting their wishes. I want a bicycle. I want a phone. I want money. Sophia watched quietly from the side, holding her wrapper tightly around herself. She had no wish to shout, no gift to expect. Christmas had never been kind to her, so she had learned not to expect kindness from it. She was about to turn away when a gentle voice called out, You there? Come. Sophia froze. She looked around, unsure. Santa was looking directly at her. People stepped aside, and suddenly all eyes were on her. Embarrassment flooded her chest. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. Slowly, she stepped forward. Santa bent slightly so they were at the same level. His eyes, hidden behind the costume, studied her face carefully. Not with pity, not with judgment, but with attention. What is your name? He asked. Sophia, she replied softly. And how old are you, Sophia? 19, sir. Santa nodded slowly. The children quieted, sensing something different. This was not a playful moment. This was something deeper. Santa smiled and asked the question that changed everything. Sophia, what would you like for Christmas? The crowd waited. Sophia's throat tightened. She could have lied. She could have said money. She could have said food. But she didn't. She swallowed hard and spoke the truth. The one thing she had never said out loud to anyone. Sir, I don't want money. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Santa raised an eyebrow. Oh! Sophia lowered her eyes. I just want a home. The word hung in the air. A home, not a mansion, not riches, not comfort, just a place to sleep. Sophia continued, her voice trembling, but steady. Anywhere, even one room. A place where I won't be chased away. A door I can close at night. For a moment, Santa said nothing. The laughter faded. The music softened. Even the children fell silent. Santa straightened slowly. Inside that costume was not a performer. He was a billionaire businessman, one of the richest men in the country, who every Christmas disguised himself to find the broken, the overlooked, the forgotten. He had heard many wishes over the years, but never this one. He saw the truth written all over Sophia's thin frame, the tired eyes, the way she stood as if always ready to run, the humility in her voice. She wasn't acting. She wasn't begging. She wasn't performing for sympathy. She was surviving. Santa nodded once. That's a good wish, he said quietly. Sophia looked up, surprised. Santa reached into a sack beside him and handed her a small wrapped box. Take this. Sophia hesitated. For me? She asked. Yes, Santa replied. For you. She accepted it carefully, afraid it might disappear if she held it too tightly. The box was light, too light to be food, too small to be anything important. She bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. Santa smiled again, but this time his smile held something else. Promise. Merry Christmas, Sophia, he said. She stepped back into the crowd, her heart pounding. People clapped politely and moved on. Children rushed forward with their own wishes. Sophia looked down at the box in her hands. She didn't open it. Not yet. She walked away from the noise and sat under a tree inside the church compound. Slowly, she unwrapped the gift. Inside was nothing special, just a small card. She frowned, confused, and opened it. Written neatly inside were the words, Your wish has been heard. That was all. No signature, no explanation. Sophia stared at the card for a long time. She laughed softly once, bitterly. So this is it? She whispered. Just words? She folded the card and tucked it inside her wrapper. She stood up and walked back toward the gate, her heart heavier than before. Maybe she had been foolish to hope. Maybe wishes were for people who already had something. As evening approached, the church compound slowly emptied. Decorations fluttered gently in the breeze. The music stopped. Volunteers packed up. Sophia returned to the gate and sat down, hugging her knees. She didn't cry. She was too tired for tears. Above her, the sky deepened into twilight. Christmas Day was ending, and Sophia believed, truly believed, that her wish would end the same way all her hopes had ended before. Quietly, unnoticed. Unanswered. She closed her eyes, unaware that somewhere not far away, Santa had already removed his costume, made a phone call, and set a plan in motion that would change her life forever. The girl who asked for a home had no idea that destiny had just said yes. Sophia slept lightly that night. She lay by the church gate, her body curled tightly against the cold, the small card from Santa pressed against her chest like something fragile. Each time she drifted into sleep, she woke again, startled by footsteps, by voices, by memories of disappointment. Christmas Day was slipping away, and with it, the small spark she had foolishly allowed herself to feel. By early morning, the compound was quiet. The city that had celebrated all day now rested in exhaustion. Wrappers and paper cups lay scattered around the church premises. The gate stood half open, creaking softly in the breeze. Sophia sat up and rubbed her eyes. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Hunger was familiar. Hope was not. She stood to her feet slowly, dusting off her dress. Another day of survival was about to begin. Then she heard footsteps, firm, unhurried. Sophia froze. She had learned to recognize danger by sound. These steps were not hurried like thieves nor careless like drunk men. They were steady, confident. She turned. A black luxury SUV rolled to a stop just outside the church gate. The engine purred softly, expensive and unfamiliar. Two men in neat suits stepped out first, scanning the area calmly. Then the back door opened, and a man stepped out. Not Santa, at least not the one she remembered. He was tall, well-dressed in a simple but clearly expensive outfit. His shoes were polished. His posture was commanding without being threatening. There was something about him that made people straighten unconsciously. Sophia's heart began to pound. She took a step back. The man looked at her and smiled. "Good morning, Sophia." Her breath caught. She stared at him, confused. You know my name?" she whispered. He nodded gently. "Do you remember Santa from yesterday?" Her eyes widened. Slowly it began to make sense. The voice, the eyes, the calm presence, it was him. Santa, only now without the costume. Sophia's knees weakened. She began, then stopped. Her throat tightened. "Why are you here?" The man motioned for her to sit. "Because Christmas isn't over yet." One of the men handed Sophia a bottle of water and a small food pack. She accepted them with shaking hands, too stunned to speak. She drank slowly, afraid this moment would vanish if she moved too fast. The man watched her quietly. "Yesterday," he said, "you made a wish." Sophia nodded. "I've heard many wishes over the years," he continued. "People ask for cars, money, phones, travel, fame." He paused. "But you asked for a home." Sophia lowered her head. "I'm sorry if it was foolish," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to waste your—" "Stop," he said gently. She looked up, startled. "That was the bravest wish I have ever heard." Tears sprang to her eyes. The man took a deep breath. "My name is Chief Adewale Okoria," he said. "I am a businessman. People call me many things. But once a year I dress as Santa to meet people the world has forgotten." Sophia listened, frozen. "I was not born rich," he continued. "I slept on floors. I went hungry. I was ignored. And when God lifted me, I promised myself I would never forget how it feels to have nothing." He reached into a brown envelope and handed it to her. "Open it." Sophia hesitated, then slowly tore it open. Inside were documents. She stared at them blankly. "I don't understand," she whispered. The man smiled. "These are ownership papers." Her heart skipped. "A fully furnished 5-bedroom mansion," he said calmly, "in a secured estate, legally transferred to your name." Sophia's hands began to shake violently. No, this is too much," she whispered. "You must be mistaken." He shook his head. "That's not all." He handed her another document. A registered business, a logistics and distribution company, fully operational, staffed, profitable. Sophia gasped. Her vision blurred. Then he placed a sleek car key in her palm. "A 2025 model vehicle. Yours." Her legs gave way. Sophia collapsed to her knees on the pavement, sobbing uncontrollably. "I didn't ask for this," she cried. "I only asked for a place to sleep." Chief Adewale knelt beside her. "And that," he said softly, "is why you received more." She cried like someone being reborn. Years of hunger, rejection, fear, and loneliness poured out of her in broken sobs. The men around them looked away respectfully. When she finally calmed, he helped her to her feet. "Come," he said, "let me take you home." The drive felt unreal. Sophia sat in silence, staring out the tinted window at streets she had walked barefoot countless times. Everything looked different from inside a car, safer, distant. The gates of the estate opened slowly, her breath caught. The mansion stood tall and elegant, lights glowing warmly like it had been waiting for her. Flowers lined the driveway. Security guards bowed respectfully. "This is," Sophia whispered. "Yours," Chief Attewell replied. Inside, the house smelled of fresh paint and clean air. Sofas gleamed, curtains flowed, a staircase curved gracefully upward. Sophia touched the wall gently, half expecting it to disappear. "I don't even know how to live like this," she whispered. "You'll learn," he said kindly, "and you won't learn alone." He explained everything carefully. Lawyers, caretakers, business managers, mentors, education plans, counseling, support. "This is not charity," he said firmly. "This is destiny meeting preparation." Sophia listened, overwhelmed. Before leaving, Chief Attewell handed her one last envelope. Inside was the small card she had received earlier. "Your wish has been heard." On the back, new words had been written, and it has been answered. Sophia pressed the card to her chest. For the first time in her life, she slept that night not by a gate, not under a bridge, not in fear. She slept in a bed, in a home. On Christmas Day, Santa did not give her a toy. He gave her a future. Sophia woke up slowly, not because fear had shaken her awake, not because footsteps had startled her, but because sunlight streamed gently through tall curtains, warming her face like a quiet promise. For a moment, she didn't move. She lay there staring at the ceiling above her, smooth, white, untouched by cracks or smoke stains. The mattress beneath her body was soft, forgiving. Her bones, used to concrete and cardboard, sank into comfort she had never known. Sophia held her breath. Then she sat up suddenly, heart racing. It wasn't a dream. She was in a bedroom. Her bedroom. Tears filled her eyes as she slowly placed her feet on the floor. The tiles were cool, clean. A thick rug rested beside the bed. She touched the wall again, just to be sure it was real. For the first time in her life, Sophia stood inside a space that belonged to her, and no one could chase her out. She walked toward the window and pulled the curtain aside. Outside, flowers bloomed neatly along the driveway. Birds perched on the fence. The estate was quiet, safe, protected. Sophia pressed her forehead against the glass and cried silently. Not from pain this time, but from relief. Later that morning, the house came alive. A housekeeper knocked gently before entering. A woman introduced herself as Mrs. Ifunanya, the caretaker assigned to help Sophia settle in. She spoke kindly without condescension. "Good morning, madam," she said. The word felt strange. Madam. Sophia shook her head nervously. "Please, just call me Sophia." Mrs. Ifunanya smiled. "As you wish." Breakfast was laid out in the dining room. Tea, bread, eggs, fruits. Sophia stared at the table as if it might disappear. She ate slowly, afraid of wasting anything. Every bite tasted like disbelief. Later that day, Chief Attewell returned. He didn't come alone. With him were a lawyer, a business consultant, and a young woman named Tola, a mentor assigned to guide Sophia through her new life. Nothing was rushed. Everything was explained patiently. "This is not a miracle meant to confuse you," Chief Attewell said gently. "It is a responsibility meant to grow you." Sophia listened carefully. She signed documents with trembling hands. Her name, Sophia Okonkwo, written boldly on paper she never imagined touching. Ownership, education plans, business management structures. But one thing troubled her. "Sir," she said quietly, "why me?" Chief Attewell leaned back and looked at her thoughtfully. "Because when you had nothing, you still asked for the smallest thing," he replied. "Because you didn't curse the world. You didn't steal. You didn't harden your heart." He paused. "And because the kind of person who only asks for shelter is the kind of person who will never forget the homeless." Sophia nodded, tears in her eyes. In the weeks that followed, her life transformed, but not overnight and not without effort. She enrolled in adult education classes first, then later gained admission into a university to study social work. She learned how to manage money, how to speak with confidence, how to walk into rooms without shrinking. Some days were hard. She struggled with imposter syndrome. She woke from nightmares of the bridge, sweating, heart pounding. Sometimes loud sounds made her flinch. Sometimes she hoarded food unconsciously, hiding snacks under her pillow out of fear that hunger would return. But she was not alone anymore. Counselors helped her heal. Mentors helped her grow. And Chief Adewale never disappeared. True to her nature, Sophia never forgot where she came from. One evening, months later, she asked to visit the bridge. The security team hesitated, but she insisted. She stood there quietly, looking at the spot where she once slept. The smell, the noise, the memories came rushing back. Her chest tightened, but this time she didn't cry. Instead, she closed her eyes and made a promise. From that day, Sophia began something new. She used part of her business profits to open the Home Project, a shelter program for homeless girls and young women. Safe spaces, clean beds, skills training, counseling. She visited churches, markets, bridges, not as a benefactor looking down from above, but as someone who had once laid there herself. When girls asked her how she survived, she answered honestly, "I survived because I endured, and because God remembered me when I had no voice." Years passed. Sophia grew into her strength. She